Hello, everyone. I don't know why every time the camera starts, I giggle, but it's a habit that I have. I hope that you guys are all doing well. This is my first time on this platform, so some of you guys may not know me. I am Hansi Soleil. I'm a student of Dr. Quintaria Shakir Black Spectrum Network. I'm also one of the newer priestesses over at the Voodoo Institute. And so I just wanted to come on here tonight to introduce myself to you all, as well as talk about some of the services that I offer and some of the themes that I've seen come up in my work. So tonight I wanted to take a little bit of time out to talk to you all about meditation, talk about what meditative blocks are, why we may be experiencing them, and some of the things that we can do to kind of clear ourselves of these blocks. Now, I myself, yes, I am a priestess. Yes, I am training under the brilliant Dr. Quintaria Shakir. But I also bring life coaching skills into my spiritual practice. So you guys will often hear me refer to myself as a spiritual life coach. What does that mean? I'm invested in helping people understand how their behavioral practices, their life patterns impact their spirituality and vice versa, and how they can develop healthy habits in order to combat those obstacles that they may have developed for themselves over time. So, meditation. Why am I talking about this? Well, over time in my own work with people as a priestess, I've come to understand that a lot of people give up on meditation because it's hard. Um, that is not a good habit. Giving up on things just because they're hard is not a good practice to have. Another thing is that you can't really have a deep spiritual practice without meditation. I'm a deep believer in that. Prayer is how we speak to spirit, and meditation is how we train ourselves to hear. I see a couple people have joined so far. Feel free to leave comments. Definitely hit the scale emoji if you want to show some love to me. If you want to leave any love offerings, my Cash App is Larissa, Laurica. Hi. Brown, Brown. But yeah, meditation is very important to your spiritual practice. Grand evening to you too, Cassie, because we can go around asking our ancestors for clarity, for gifts, for money, for whatever. You know, and we do that a lot. We ask for a lot of things. But how are we going to get guidance if we don't teach ourselves how to sit still and listen, right? A lot of us are asking for information from our ancestors and we don't know how to receive the information that's being given. So meditation is extremely necessary. For some of us, we don't even know what meditation is. And I think that's a good place to start. This book is foundational. My godfather recommended it. It's called Meditation and the Mind of Man. And it unpacks the writings of Edgar Cayce. And it talks a lot about meditation. And so tonight I'm going to be going off of their definition of meditation. And for them, it's the practice of getting spirit as well as mind and our will in conversation with each other, right? Why is that important? Well, again, we can't do the work of manifesting the things that we want in our life, of getting information from spirit that we're craving, that we're seeking, that we're going after, if we don't have control over our mind, if we don't know how to clear our minds well enough to make it an empty vessel to receive information, right? One of the things I encounter a lot in my work with clients is clients will come to me saying that they can't hear their ancestors. And before I can even shuffle the cards or pull my bone board out, their ancestors are showing up very, very loudly for me, right? And that's because you guys haven't trained yourselves how to hear spirit, how to receive, right? And that's what meditation is about. How do you get to a place where you can clear your mind enough to have space to receive messages and hear them, right? So I took some time and I wrote down what I've encountered to be the 5 biggest obstacles in meditation, or things that complicate people's ability to meditate regularly. And I'm going to talk about them and then also talk about remedies for those complications, okay? Now, some of these may be very obvious, and that's one of the things about this work. Sometimes the answers that we want like huge, big, mystical answers, but they're actually really simple. And a lot of this has to do with discipline. A lot of spirituality has to do with discipline, right? So I'm going to start at the very first thing. And the reason why I'm starting here is because it's actually a two-parter. So there's an A and a B to this one. But one of the main things that tends to cause meditative blocks for people is a trash diet. You have a horrible diet. You need to change your diet. And I want to talk about this in two phases because I want to talk about this in relationship to food, and then I'm going to go into a conversation with it around media, right? Now, I want to start with the food conversation because I think it's really important. And I know sometimes whenever we talk about food, within this Western culture, it can spill over into a conversation around diet culture in a way that's not really healthy or productive. And I really want us to avoid that. I want us to be smarter than that, right? We live in a society where most of the food that's on the shelves is poison. It's not actual food. It's not good for us. So consuming a lot of that stuff over time can clog us, can clog our system, can clog our energetic fields, right? So if you're having a hard time with meditation or focus in general, it may be time for you to reevaluate your diet. Are you eating a diet that is extremely meat heavy? Are you dependent on starches? Are you consuming a whole bunch of dairy when you know that doesn't work with your system? Like, what are you doing in terms of what it is you're taking into your body? And are you evaluating whether or not that's causing complications for you? One of the remedies of dealing with this in terms of food in particular is fasting. Not only is fasting a good practice to have in terms of your spiritual practice and routine, it's going to teach you a lot about what works for your body and what doesn't. A lot of us may not have visited nutritionists. A lot of us may not have carved out the time for those conversations. So fasting over a period of time, as well as, reintroducing foods back into your diet slowly after a period of fasting will be really, really helpful for you in terms of clearing meditative blocks. Some of you guys may be eating things that don't work with your system very well at all. I know that when I first started my spiritual journey and I incorporated fasting into my routine, once I started to do that cutting diet of incorporating things back into it slowly, I realized I shouldn't be eating red meat all the time. Something that's not good for my body. It really clogs me and it makes it hard for me to receive information. I'm seeing that Jaguar is saying that for them, it's chicken and fish. Yeah, for a lot of people, it's a lot of different things. I've worked with clients before, and after a period of fasting, they came to understand that they were lactose intolerant. Now, why their doctor wasn't able to pick up on that after so many years, I have no idea. But again, fasting, not only is that routine of sacrifice good in terms of spiritual practice, period, right? It's a habit that, just like with tithing, with our finances, we should be in a practice of sacrificing with our diet, right? We should have a regular fasting routine. I think, 3 days of fasting for every 30 days is a really good place to start. But again, using that as an opportunity to figure out, okay, when I eat these foods, what impact does that have on my clarity? What impact does that have on my ability to take in spirit? What impact does that have on my ability to be present? If you know that after you eat a whole bunch of starches, you feel disconnected from your body, okay, well then you shouldn't be shocked that you're having a difficult time meditating if you spent the last 3 days inhaling bagels, right? And I'm taught, again, this is not a toxic food conversation. This is not a diet culture conversation. This is just very much about learning how to be intentional with what you put into your body and how that impacts relationship to spirit. I'm going to recommend a couple of books that have been helpful for me over the years. I'm going to butcher this name, and I do it every single time. But Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich Nhat Hanh is a famous philosopher, spiritual philosopher, and they have a lot of work on mindfulness. Pieces Every Step is one of my favorite books in the world. but specifically his works on mindful eating are really good. So there's one literally called How to Eat that's really good. But the second one that he did called Savor, it's called Savor Mindful Eating, Mindful Life, is really, really helpful. And he has a conversation in there about, that fasting and cutting cycle and how that helps you. Now, in terms of trash diet, we talked about the food component, right? We talked about why it's important to be conscious of what you're putting into your body and the impact that has on you. Because, again, meditation is about, it's the flowing of energy through all of our energetic fields, right? So if we're eating certain foods that we know are going to block certain chakras, we may want to stop that, right? It's a similar thing with our diet in terms of media consumption. We're putting things into our body that may not be the greatest for us. I'm an Oakland girl, I'm a Cali girl, and I love some West Coast hip hop, but I can't listen to that stuff all the time. It has a nostalgic hold on me. But there's only so much conversation about bitches and hoes and rippers and runners that I can sit through before it ends up impacting my mentality, right? Before it ends up just messing with my mind, right? Leaving a lot of clutter, a lot of not positive thoughts in my mind, right? So being mindful of what media you're consuming, what music you're listening to, what podcasts you're taking in, what movies you're watching. You can't be really, shocked if you are taking in a lot of chaotic imagery and then you're unable to meditate, you're unable to clear your mind, right? So again, just being conscious of the media you're taking in, what it is you're ingesting, both in terms of food as well as messages, will have a really big impact on your ability to meditate. The second thing that I wanted us to talk about is shadow work, that good old shadow work. And I know sometimes people hear shadow work and they get freaked out by it. The easiest way to think about it is, what are the undealt with wounds and thoughts that are hiding within that you need to confront and gain mastery over, right? What does that have to do with meditation? What I've seen happen for a lot of people, and also early in my own spiritual journey, I went through this, right? I go to sit down, I go to meditate, and then every fear-based repressed memory that I was having was popping up and freaking me out, right? And I've had this come up with a few clients where they're like, I can't meditate because it makes me anxious. And even if for a few moments I have a clear mind, this fearful memory comes up or this traumatic memory comes up. What is the remedy for that? You need to be doing shadow work. A lot of us are walking around and letting our wounds run rampant in our lives. And one of the ways that not engaging in any shadow work can hamper your meditation is that if you don't know what repressed thoughts are there to clear out, how can you clear them, right? So definitely making sure that you engage in shadow work, that you get support through shadow work is going to be necessary for your meditative journey. I know that I offer shadow work consultations. If you want to go to thevoodooinstitute.com and book one of those with me, you're always welcome to. I know many of the other priestesses also offer support with that. So know that there are resources out there and that there's support. I'm seeing that people are offering affirmations. Does anybody have any questions so far before I get into 3 through 5? Feel free to go ahead and drop those questions if you have any. Also show some love, hit the scale emoji for me. Again, if you want to give any love offerings, my Cash App is Laurica, Laurica Brown, $ Laurica Brown is my Cash App. And my PayPal email is manze, MANZE, Soleil@gmail.com. So while you guys are doing that, while you guys are showing love to me through emojis and love offerings, I'm going to go ahead and go into the third thing that tends to be something that clogs our ability to meditate. And that is an incessant need for validation. What do you mean by that, Soleil? Okay. So again, as we know, if we've read this book or if we read anything about and you guys should get this if you don't have it already. Your meditative practice needs to be about connecting to source, right? It should be about connecting to God. It should be about clearing your mind, your heart, your vessel enough to be able to tap in and receive messages from source, to be in communion, to be in oneness with source, right? That is not a practice that requires validation. But unfortunately, some of us come to meditative practice seeking validation. And you guys may not even know what you're doing. When I say we're seeking validation, what do I mean? I'm meditating because I want to get better sleep. I'm meditating because it's going to make me a good person. Or I'm meditating because I need to manifest money, which nothing's wrong with that. Once you get mastery over the practice, those will be things that you can teach yourself to do. But if you don't have that foundation of learning how to clear your vessel so that you can hear and receive messages, all of that work is going to be in vain anyway, right? So you have to release this need for validation. And the way, the remedy to that is to change your relationship to what brought you to meditative practice in the first place. The book is called Meditation and the Mind of Man. And it's written by Dr. Herbert Poirier and Mark Thurston. And it is a book that interrogates the writings of Edgar Cayce. But yeah, you're coming to meditation for the wrong things. And of course, if you come to any situation for the wrong reasons and with the wrong intentions, it's going to be hard for you to have genuine practice around that. So how do we remedy that? Well, we check in with ourselves. We ask ourselves, what are we doing? What are we hoping to gain from this meditative practice? And if you can bring it back to establishing your relationship with source, connecting with source, tapping into that oneness that is necessary for you to be engaged in spiritual practice, then that will take some of the pressure off of it. I'm saying the part about need for validation because if you come to meditation with the wrong purpose, you're going to make it so much more difficult than what it is that it needs to be, right? And also some of these other things that we talked about will probably help you with your sleep journey or these other issues that you're having anyway, right? If you can't sleep and you have a fucked up diet, that's probably part of the reason why you're not resting, right? If you can't sleep because you're dealing with repressed thoughts and fears, then you need to be engaged in some shadow work and getting support from a priest or priestess that can walk you through that journey, right? But bringing that to the meditative practice, having a demand of your meditation before you even teach yourself how to engage with it is probably not the healthiest way to approach it. A friend to the world is an enemy to God. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you shouldn't be concerned with the validation of other people. And that's another thing that I see folks do. You get wrapped up in that game of comparison, and comparison is nothing more than beat up, right? My relationship to source is not going to look like yours, Jaguar, or Pebbles. It's not going to look like anyone else's. So because of that, my meditation may not exactly look like yours, and that's okay. Which brings me to point number 4, which is why meditation may be hard for some of us. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And so some of us are going into this trying to meditate for way too long, way too soon. If you've never meditated before in your life and you sit down randomly on a fucking Thursday, I don't know why I picked Thursday, but you sit down randomly on a Thursday and you tell yourself that you're going to meditate for a half an hour, I sincerely doubt that that will be successful, right? So as with anything that is new to you, you have to build endurance. So I recommend that everybody start with 5 to 10 minutes of meditation and do that as consistently as you can. But no, you can't hop up just because your homegirl who's probably been meditating for several decades can meditate for an hour easy breezy and sit next to them and meditate like the way that they do and replicate their practice, right? They've spent years building up their endurance, both physically and spiritually. So that's why they are at the point where they can meditate an hour plus. You have to be comfortable with starting at the beginning, you know? Again, spiritual work is exactly that. It's spiritual work. It's not spiritual easy. So you have to be willing to put in the work and build endurance towards your practice, right? That's something that you have to teach your body to do over time. So the way you remedy this is, why are you sitting down for a half an hour trying to do something you've never done before? Be patient with yourself. Start with 5 to 10 minutes, and then from there, it'll become easier over time. The fifth thing that I want to go over kind of relates to the fourth, and that's a lack of consistency, right? So I went to graduate school at UC Santa Barbara, and one of the professors that was chair of the Black Studies department at the time, when I was having a writer's block, told me something that irritated the mess out of me, but it made sense, which is, if you sit in the same spot every day, the words will find you. Now, again, when he said this to me, I was past deadline for my thesis, and I didn't want to hear that shit. I was like, that's not helpful to me. But I took his advice. I went and sat my black ass down at the same spot every day. And then eventually the words did start to find me. Meditation is not something that you can do for 3 days and get frustrated and stop. It's not something you can do for 5 days and get frustrated and stop. You have to have some discipline, right? You have to have some discipline, and that discipline will help you in maintaining consistency. And that consistency is what will make meditation work for you over time. It's very rare that somebody sits down their first, second, maybe even their fifth time of meditation, and it just clicks for them and changes them instantly. Most people have to go at the practice for weeks and months, for weeks, if not months. So again, it's that consistency. It's that willingness to build endurance. It's that dedication to developing a practice around it that is very, very helpful. So Jaguar, when you smoke, first of all, what are you smoking? You smoke tobacco, or are you smoking cannabis? We're adults, so tell me exactly what it is you are smoking. That's first off. Second off, you would know that better than I do. So what I mean by that is, when you smoke and you meditate, do you feel like it's bringing you closer to source? Do you feel like it's helping you in your focus? Do you feel like it's helping you to release all the clutter in your mind so that you can be a vessel? If so, then, continue to lean into that. But I have had experiences with clients that I've worked with who tried to smoke before meditating, and all it did was frustrate them. All it did was clog their mind and made it more difficult for them. So that's very much a tolerance issue. Going back to what I was saying earlier about your meditative practice may not look like someone else's. So I know that that's not a yes or no answer. You'll come to find out from me over time. It's very rare that I give yes or no answers, because we're all adults and you're responsible. It's important you practice agency in your life. But I would say, if you feel like it's something that is hindering your ability to meditate, then no, don't do it. Save it until after. And also, I would recommend to anyone else who is getting into meditation for the first time, or who's starting, hold off. You want to develop your practice first. And then if you feel like it's something you can incorporate, that's awesome. Okay. So we talked about the trash diet. We talked about repressed fears and the need for shadow work. We talked about validation, and how validation and comparison will get you fucked up all the time. I strongly believe that, especially being part of Black Spectrum Network and being in the particular coven that I am in, and being around so many talented priestesses, but who are very, very different. I would have myself fucked up if I was trying to replicate their experiences, because their gifts are different than mine, right? So I think that challenging and checking that need for that validation is going to be really essential. But then we also talked about the fact that you may be meditating for too long, and you need to, practice some patience and build endurance. but then also lack of consistency, right? So we've gone over 5 things so far. And I was going to stop at 5, but I have a bonus one that kind of relates to the diet stuff, but it's very different. You may not be moving your body enough, right? One of the biggest and most helpful forms of advice, especially when I first started getting mentorship under Black Spectrum Network, was when I'm having blocks to get up and move my body, right? To get up and go for a run, to get up and go for a walk, to do something that's physical, right? Because again, when you are meditating, if you're doing it right, you have energy flowing through every single one of your energy points or through your chakras, right? So you want to get up, you want to get in movement if you're feeling blocked. So that is definitely something that can help you with removing meditative blocks. I hope that this information was helpful for you all. I know that sometimes people are coming in like expecting spells, and some point in the future, I will be sharing those kind of, sources of information with you guys. But I'm a firm believer in the foundation. I'm very much a Taurus. Solid foundations and stable foundations are important. And so before you hop out and you try to burn a blue candle thinking that's going to strengthen your meditative practice, you may be wasting a cannibal cannibal. Jesus, don't waste the cannibals. You may be wasting a candle if you know your diet is shit. If you know you haven't gotten up and moved your body in several days. If you're not drinking water. If you are coming to meditation as if it's a place to, just beg for things rather than a place to clear your mind and connect, right? So I know it's not like, recipes and stuff, but sometimes it's the behavior. Sometimes the behavior is the most important thing to start with. Absolutely. So again, I hope this information was helpful. I am going to go ahead and take a few questions. Again, if you guys appreciate this information and want to show said appreciation, you can send me a love offering over at my Cash App, Larissa Brown, Laurica Brown. I also take love offerings through my PayPal, which is manzesoleil@gmail.com. I'm gonna go through and read some of the things in the chat. Hi, Dej. It's good to see you. So good to see. I'm glad you're here, Dej. I'm glad that this was helpful for you. Jaguar, you said the weed helps with the chatter in your meditation. That's good. That's good to know, and I'm grateful I'm glad that you're a Taurus. Everything you've been saying so far makes sense, and I understand why I connected with you now. That is good if it helps you in the initial stages to calm the chatter. But again, meditation is about having mastery over your mind so that you can match your spiritual needs with the needs of your mind and create the physical reality that you want for yourself, right? So I want to challenge you to see if at least for a week you can do meditation and go through meditation without the marijuana. Is that something you think you can do? I'm gonna challenge you to it. My email is hunsisoleil@gmail.com. HOUNSISOLE. I can spell, y'all. It's just late. And it's listed at the bottom, hunsisoleil@gmail.com. So Jaguar, feel free to reach out to me after a week and let me know how that was for you. I am I partake in the herbal remedies as well. So I understand and I get it. But you do want to train yourself to be able to meditate without being dependent on any kind of substance. And it also may change and shift the quality of the meditations you have. So I really want to encourage you to give that a shot. If I don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. You guys will definitely be seeing more of me over the coming months. I will be doing some more kind of check-ins. Thank you so much, Joseph, and it's good to see you. I appreciate you for typing out my email. And I owe you a reading, so we need to schedule that soon. You're very welcome, Cassie. I'm grateful that this was. You know what? I'm glad to hear that this was helpful, because there was a part of me when I was writing this list out where I was like, are people going to really? Because they may want recipes and things, and that all that is coming. But again, the foundations are necessary, and knowing how to treat your body and prepare it as a vessel for meditation is so essential. I had a lot of these struggles in the beginning too. And then once I realized just the simple things that I needed to shift in order to make my meditative practices stronger, I was almost kind of not disappointed, but irritated that I didn't have that information sooner. Once you guys incorporate these lifestyle changes, it's going to make a world of difference. I definitely believe that. Thank you. People say that a lot, that I have a soothing voice. I used to do radio a long, long time ago. And I also used to sing. Those are things that I really loved. But again, thank you all for your time. Thank you so much for dropping by and spending this time with me. If you are interested in doing any kind of shadow work, again, I have shadow work confrontations, Jesus. Consultations. You guys don't have to pay me for confrontation. Consultation, shadow work consultations available at thevoodooinstitute.com. I'm also still doing ancestral life path readings, and we have a special for the next few weeks. So if you go to voodooinstitute.com/Soleil, you can book an ancestral life path reading with me. Use the code Black Don't Crack to get $20 off for the next, I think, week or so. So definitely take advantage of that. Check out my IG. I'm live on my Instagram quite a bit. My handle on Instagram is just Honsi Soleil. I do a lot of live readings, so I'll do weekly forecasts as well as midweek check-ins. I recently started a tarot and true crime series that people are responding to really well. I'm going to be doing another installment of that on my IG tomorrow at 9 p.m. So feel free to come by and check that out. Some point soon I'm going to, transfer some of those over to the YouTube as well. And I may do I'm going to see if I can get Hugan to join me for one of those, because that would be really cool to do that in a video with him, do like a true crime reading, see what comes up. But I'm going to wrap up here. I don't want to take up too much of y'all's time. Again, feel free to reach out to me at voodooinstitute.com/Soleil. My Instagram is, hi Sharika, it's good to see you. My Instagram is Honsi Soleil. So go there to check out anytime I'm doing flash sales or any of the lives that I do. I also do live readings on there as well. So if you guys ever want to check that out, please feel free. Love you all. Thank you for your time. And we will see each other shortly. We'll see each other again soon. Take care.